Hey guys, it's Ulrich. I hope you're doing well. Today I want to cover a question, or a number of questions, I guess, on a specific topic, the topic of guitar habits. And I get occasionally, but on a fairly regular basis, I get questions around, hey, I hold my guitar pick a certain way, or I like to have music in the background while I'm practicing guitar. Is that good? Is that bad? So there's a number of habits I think all of us have, and the question is, are they good or bad, or are they benign, indifferent? Do they matter or not? So what I did was I was thinking about those guitar habits that I was able to observe over the past 25 years or so since I started playing guitar and teaching guitar. So, habits that I observe in myself, guitar friends, other guitarists, if you will, as well as guitar students, actually most importantly, my guitar students. And I just want to share a bunch of those habits with you, and I'll leave it up to you whether you feel like they're good or bad or indifferent. I'll give you my opinion, but that's merely it. I think there are a number of habits, or there's some of those guitar habits where I guess, all would come to a consensus and say like that, you better don't do that. And likewise, this is something we can all agree to. But then there are some guitar habits where the opinions will differ. No doubt about that. Anyway, enough rambling. Let's get started. Playing an out-of-tune guitar is a bad guitar habit, and I'm just going to leave it as that. If you're too lazy to tune your guitar, if you can't tune your guitar, then please learn it or make an effort to ensure that your guitar is properly tuned. Happened to me. I'm the first one to admit. I put videos up there on YouTube, I watched them later on, and despite my diligence, I realized I forgot to tune a guitar, or a string is not exactly tuned, and it drives me crazy, it kills me. But so now imagine you're playing a band, so now you expose your band members to your untuned guitar. It's also first and foremost it should be in your own best interest to play and practice an instrument that is accurately tuned. Let's just leave it like that. I think we all agree that not tuning guitar is probably a bad guitar habit. Now, the next one arguably is a little bit more touchy. And listen, the last thing I want, as a matter of principle, I don't tell you what's right or wrong, or what you should be doing or shouldn't be doing. All I do is give you my opinion. Take it for what it's worth. But this one is playing under the influence. So we know about driving under the influence and what consequences that may or may not have. The same applies to guitar, slightly, even though it's a different context, admittedly. But here's the thing. I'm sure it's true, because I experienced myself, that moderate alcohol consumption can to some extent be beneficial. You lighten up, you loosen up, you might get more confidence while you play, and all these things are true to some extent. But the problem is there's a fine line, and very likely you don't know where that line is, because if you keep drinking, that line gets very, very blurry, and you may think you're doing very well. You think you're playing better than usual. Whereas in fact, and in actuality, that's just not true. An easy way to find that out is just to record yourself whenever you think wow, I'm playing exceptionally well because I had a few drinks. Record yourself and listen to it the next day, and then decide for yourself whether you really feel like, yeah, that actually helped me playing better, or you know what, I thought I was playing better, but here's the evidence, and clearly I wasn't. On that specific point, let's leave it like that. I go into a little bit more detail on my article, to which you find a link somewhere here, but I want to move on to the next one. Not following through with a specific task. Totally guilty as charged. For the life of me, I cannot even remember the last time I sat down and stayed focused on learning a piece from beginning to end. I don't know when that happened the last time. I'm working on 50 million things in parallel. And the problem is, and I'm the first one to admit, it would be much more beneficial if I would reduce my scope of work and focus in on specific tasks and deal with them sequentially. So to me, it's definitely a bad guitar habit, because I acknowledge it would be much more efficient and effective to do fewer things in a sequential order. Now, what about playing too fast, notoriously too fast, or too slow? How about that? Now, based on what I've seen, if you're a guitar beginner, then you probably struggle keeping up with a beat or keeping up with your metronome. So you're dragging behind a little bit. So very likely you're a little bit too slow. Now, interestingly enough, the better you get, at least that's what I observed in the majority of the cases, that moves into the other direction. So you tend to play too fast. That's why it's so important to practice your rhythm and your feel for timing. You can do that with the metronome, or again, go over to my website. If you're in a band, work with your drummer. There's tons of things you can do on that to improve your timing. But in the first step, find out for yourself, are you typically playing a little bit too slow or too fast? Once you know that, you can course correct. The next one is practicing while listening to music. A lot of you, especially the younger folks, they just constantly, they have their cell phone, iTunes, they have their music playing, and it's constantly playing in the background. Sometimes I have students coming. I even seem to remember back in the day when I was still giving one-on-one lessons, some students showed up with their cell phone and music was playing, and they kept it playing while we started the lesson, and I told them, you got to turn that off. But they're so conditioned, I don't know whether it's something needs to be going on in the background. They need that stimulation, whether it's the TV running or the music or something else. And admittedly, that's just how they work better. That's how they do their homework. That's how they pretty much do everything else. I personally don't think it's very beneficial when you learn guitar, because you're dealing with music, and I'd like you to stay focused on the music that you produce or that you're working on. And I personally find it detrimental if you have background noises. Admittedly, you may feel different. It's one of those guitar habits where the opinions will deviate. Same concept, playing in front of the TV. So, very guilty of that. Since day one, I've been playing in front of the TV. However, and as a matter of fact, I believe it was very beneficial. It helped me with dexterity, flexibility, coordination, and things like that. However, one thing is very, very important. The time you spend with your guitar in front of the TV while watching TV has nothing to do with practice. Your practice, especially if you're a student of mine, you've heard me saying that before, this is you in a room with no distraction 20 minutes every day. What you do outside of that, whether you take your guitar and play golf with it or do whatever you want with it, I don't care. But for those 20 minutes every day, 5 to 6 days a week, that's your time where you practice guitar. If you're done and watch your favorite show with your guitar, just to continue doing some exercises, totally cool. I do that too. Nothing wrong with it, but it does not substitute your regular practice. Holding the guitar pick differently. Well, isn't that ironic? I'm sitting in a studio and I can't even find a plectrum. Oh, there is one. Because they're usually everywhere, except for when you need them. I have a picture on my website and I show you how I hold a plectrum, which is a kind of a unique way. I actually only know of one other person who happens to be a great guitarist, which is unfortunately the only commonality I have with him. Not the great guitarist part, but the way we hold the plectrum. Pat Metheny, holds the plectrum apparently and supposedly in the same way that I do, which is not the common way. There's a picture on my website, check that out, and you'll see how Pat and myself hold that. Of course, when I learned that I have something in common with Pat Metheny, I had to capitalize on that, knowing that I'm, of course, light years away from his universe. But anyway, I thought that was a fun fact and some assurance from you. If you don't hold your plectrum in the exact right way, you can get away with it unless you're doing something really crazy. Again, check the link. Read up on the details. I explain everything on my website. The last one, guitar cleaning, one of my favorite topics. Some people obsessively clean their guitar. Some of my students, I want to say 50% have some sort of cleaning thing going on. So some go really overboard. I mean, they clean their instrument every day. It's especially in the beginning. Later on, they lose interest in general. That's just naturally what happens. But here's my point. absolutely, you should keep your instrument clean, maintenance setup, new strings or replacing the strings and all that, but don't obsess over it. Also, cleaning your guitar or putting new strings on your guitar is not guitar practice. There's nothing to do with it. It's an important task. And yes, there's nothing wrong with having the habit of keeping your guitar nice and clean. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. As a matter of fact, it may enhance your playability. You certainly don't want to deal with rusty strings or dull fretboard. But on the other hand, it's not one of your sports trophies and put back on the shelf so everybody can gaze at it. The guitar is an instrument, it's a physical instrument. It needs to become part of your DNA. You will sweat and the sweat will go in your guitar and you may bleed and your fingers may bleed and all that. I know I'm getting very dramatic here, but it's a tool. You work with it, you make music with it. So take it for what it is. Don't put it, it's not something that should go behind a glass cabinet for everybody to look at and adore how beautiful it is. This is your working instrument. You want to learn to make music, so treat it as such. Alright, that's it, my friends, on the topic of guitar habits. Again, a little bit controversial. I believe some guitar habits, we can all agree, are probably not that great. Others can be very beneficial, and there's a whole spectrum in between of guitar habits where you can probably argue either way. Thanks for watching. As usual, leave a like, become a subscriber, leave a comment below. Let me know what your guitar habits are. Let me know whether you agree or you don't agree. I'll see you in the next video. Till then, take care. Bye-bye.